We good to go? We good? Everyone good? We have sound? All right.
That's a lot of sound.
Good morning. My name's Steve Poftak. I'm the General Manager of the Mbta. It is my pleasure to welcome you here today for a great event celebrating the bipartisan infrastructure law and also this, what will be a fantastic new bus facility here in Quincy. I'd especially like to thank Governor Baker and Lieutenant Governor Polito for the Baker-Polito's administration's continued support of the Mbta. I'd also like to thank our federal delegation, in particular Senator Warren, Congressman Lynch, for continuing to advocate for the T, for their ongoing support, and for getting us this incredibly important funding from the BIL. I'd like to thank Speaker Mariano and Mayor Koch for continuing to advocate for the T and supporting us as we move the T forward. Also like to thank the many state legislators, stakeholders, and community advocates who've joined us here today. In particular, also like to thank Director Bob Butler, who was kind enough to join us today. And I also want to close by thanking our riders for their patience as we build a better T. I'm pleased to be here today to acknowledge and welcome the federal investments in the Mbta that are part of the bipartisan infrastructure law. This law will deliver $2.2 billion in Mbta formula funds over the next 5 years, with $1.6 billion already programmed and $580 million intended for new projects. $420 million from the BIL is meant for stations and facility improvements, like the project here at the new Quincy bus maintenance facility. This is a critical component of our modernization program. It's going to replace a 104-year-old garage with a completely modern, state-of-the-art facility that's going to be the first garage in our system to accommodate a fleet of zero-emission battery electric buses. And this will be the first, but I promise you it will not be the last. We have plans. We just funded 2 weeks ago. We funded the design of the next facility in the queue at Arbor Way, which will not only provide an all-electric fleet to that area, but will also allow us to expand the amount of service that we're providing from that garage. The Quincy garage will open in 2024. It's going to accommodate up to 120 battery electric buses, and it's going to provide cleaner and more reliable service to the community, to not only Quincy, but the surrounding communities. We've made a number of improvements to service in Quincy and on the South Shore. As many of you know, we are in the midst of a red line transformation program, which will end with the procurement of 252 new red line cars, as well as upgrades to track, signals, and power across the red line that's going to allow greater capacity and more reliability. I was pleased to join many of the same folks who are here today in 2019 when we reopened Wollaston Station that had been completely rebuilt. And I look forward to welcoming many of you back later this year when we reopen when we finally complete the rehabilitation of both the Braintree and the Quincy Adams garage. We're excited to continue making improvements for our riders in and around Quincy, and we're excited for the vast number of projects that are going to benefit from the bipartisan infrastructure law funding. We're already planning to actively and aggressively pursue discretionary funds and grant opportunities that are also part of this law, where we'll be competing for funding for important projects like ongoing electrification of the bus system, more bus lanes, and accessibility improvements. We've taken many steps already to prepare for these additional funds. Last month, we announced the reallocation of up to $500 million in operating funds to support critical capital investments to best position us to get those discretionary funds. We set aside $145 million to serve as the local match for federal funds, and we're continuing to expand our internal capacity to support a more robust discretionary grant team. We've worked hard to responsibly prepare for these funds in order to continue the kind of service our riders deserve as we move beyond the pandemic. This funding is instrumental in helping us accelerate improvements over the next 5 years and build a better T and do it quickly. Again, these investments at the T would not be possible without the continued support from the Baker-Polito administration. I'd like to now invite Governor Charles Baker to say a few words. Governor?
Thanks, Steve. Well, good morning, everyone. And Steve, I want to thank you for calling me Charles. It reminded me of my mom. Let me first of all say how much we appreciate the level of support that our administration has received from so many players at the local level and the federal level over the course of the past 7 years. A lot of the work that gets done that involves public transportation requires a teamwork effort between our federal delegation and federal administrators and our local colleagues, who in many cases are a big part of how we actually make stuff happen on the ground. And the good news for us is not just this particular facility today, but the statement it makes about where we'll be going and how we'll be moving, and moving people over the course of the next decade or so. The part of the infrastructure bill that was passed by Congress and signed by President Biden that involves what we call formula funding represents an increase to Massachusetts of about $9.5 billion over the course of the next 5 or 6 years. Now, $9.5 billion is divided into about $5.4 billion for roads and bridges, $2.2 billion, which the general manager spoke of, to public transportation, about $1.3 billion for environmental infrastructure, and I cannot express how much I appreciate the federal government's decision to make a big investment in environmental infrastructure. Environmental infrastructure is infrastructure, just like other infrastructure, but it has gotten the short shrift for decades, and we have a ton of catching up to do there. And all of this doesn't happen unless you have really great working relationships with your colleagues in local government, like Mayor Koch here today, and our colleagues in the state legislature, like the Speaker, Ronald Mariano. Everybody's got to be working together. Everybody's got to play on the same team. And when it comes to actually bidding on a lot of the competitive money that the general manager mentioned, of which there are also billions of dollars of opportunity for us here in Massachusetts, the same teamwork will be required to be successful there. We've always done really well on making sure we get our fair share, so-called, of competitive grant and competitive bid opportunities. I have no doubt that will continue to be the story as we go forward, because we have a really good team on the field and we have terrific partners at the federal level. But the bottom line is this facility is the first of what will be many as the MBTA goes through the process of completely transforming its bus fleet away from diesel-based and fossil fuel-based powered vehicles to an entirely electric fleet. And that is, for all of us here in the Commonwealth, a very good story and very good news. And with that, I will turn it back over to Steve. But mostly, I just want to say thanks to the delegation, thanks to the Speaker, and thanks to the Mayor and to his team, and thanks to our folks for all the work people have done to get us to this point. Thank you.
Governor spoke of partnerships and collaboration as essential to this work, and one of our most essential partners here at the MBTA are our colleagues at the Mass Department of Transportation. So at this point, I'd like to invite MassDOT Secretary Jamey Tesler to say a few words.
Thank you, General Manager. Thank you, Governor, Lieutenant Governor. It's a pleasure to be here today to outline the ways which the MBTA will be advancing significant investments in the Commonwealth's public transportation networks. As the prior speakers have mentioned, I want to begin with partnership. And I want to thank our federal delegation, Senator Warren, Congressman Lynch, and our whole delegation for making this possible with a level of commitment and investment from our federal government. I want to thank our local partners in both my fellow board member and Mayor Koch, as well as Speaker, for making these investments possible and the partnership that we need to get things done. And we're going to be continuing to work closely and to partner with each of you throughout this process. First, our fiscal year 23 budget includes additional resources from MassDOT, and the General Manager outlined significant investments on the T side to ramp up our capacity to hire, to bring on planners, engineers, and other team members necessary to execute these projects. And our budget proposal invests in that team. We will be advancing a transportation bond bill in the coming weeks that anticipates the needs and critical investments that will require state match, because as prior speakers have mentioned, not only are we going to match the program investments here, but we want to compete and outcompete other areas and have the dollars program to match the federal investment. And we will be working with our regional and municipal planning partners. These projects, these investments need the work and together teamwork with community stakeholders, identifying, scoping projects, and making sure we can accelerate the pipeline that we have planned together. We are here today in Quincy to celebrate this new bus maintenance facility because it represents the kind of meaningful capital investments that the Baker-Polito administration and the MBTA can and will make to improve reliability and service throughout our entire network with these resources. The MBTA's fleet and facility modernization decisions are not made in isolation, but are an integrated strategy to help us achieve our greater goals. As the general manager mentioned, this is the first new bus garage that we are building, but it will not be the last. Converting the bus fleet to zero emissions technology and implementing the associated investments and help us achieve the Commonwealth's carbon reduction goals. These facilities also improve the conditions and environment that our workforce is in every single day able to take care and make our service more reliable, and it improves the service for all of our riders. Increasing the fleet size and pursuing a network redesign that meets the needs of a growing and changing ridership with a focus on equity, service, reliability, and sustainability is also complemented by building these new facilities. These capital investments are key to the MBTA projects like bus transformation and deploying new and cleaner technologies. And as previously mentioned, the BIL will provide the MBTA $2.2 billion over the next 5 years to continue to make these key upgrades, such as electrifying our bus network and dedicated bus lanes, core capacity investments, station improvements, and on commuter rail double tracking and bridge projects, vehicles, electrification, early action investments, all reducing the MBTA's carbon footprint. I also want to note that there are also $66 billion in funding across the United States for Amtrak to improve the passenger and rail network. And we will be working with Amtrak as a partner to improve rail in the Commonwealth and along the Northeast Corridor. Just last week in Lowell, or just recently in Lowell, we were likewise celebrating the Baker-Polito administration's advancement of the Rourke Bridge, an important asset and connection within that community. We also announced MassDOT's plans to invest $3 billion in advancing over 182 similar bridge projects and putting additional federal bridge funding to work alongside the recently authorized state program, the Next Generation Bridge Program. This additional federal funding is going to allow us to speed up our work and take advantage of this historic amount of money to, as I said, address 180 other bridge projects in addition to the Rourke Bridge. I want to close by saying thank you again to our congressional delegation for delivering us the resources, our state delegation for their partnership to date and work on the upcoming budget and transportation bond bill, our community leaders and stakeholders to work together to accelerate our pipeline of projects, and again to thank the Governor and Lieutenant Governor for their support and faith in our team to get the work done. And I think I'm turning back to you.
Thank you, Secretary. Now I'd like to invite Senator Elizabeth Warren to address us. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm here today to do two things. One is to say thank you for the partnership that brings us here today. And that means thank you to the mayor, thank you to the speaker, thank you to the governor and lieutenant governor, and thank you to my House partner, Congressman Lynch. Without partnership, we wouldn't be here today. The second thing I'm here to do today is to celebrate. It's finally arriving. the resources we need to be able to make transformational change. The Federal Transit Administration has just announced that Massachusetts will be receiving nearly $200 million right now in partial year spending for mass transit. And this is the first installment of a $2.8 billion of federal transit funding coming to Massachusetts over the next 5 years. This is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to address some of our biggest infrastructure challenges, to take bold steps to combat climate change, and to tackle environmental justice head-on. With this historic investment, we'll improve stations and facilities like this one. We'll build new ones, and we will upgrade signals throughout the system. But the top of our transportation priority list must also include electric buses and rail. They are the best way to improve reliability, to reduce maintenance costs, and to clean our environment. And this federal money is not coming a moment too soon. Nearly a quarter of the buses and other public transit vehicles in our state are beyond their useful lives. We need to replace our diesel transit and school buses as soon as possible, because we know that the same things that cause climate change also create severe public health problems, disproportionately in Black and brown and most vulnerable communities. And diesel buses are often the biggest polluters in these neighborhoods. I am glad to see that the T is focusing on this. And let's keep in mind, it's not just about replacing old, unreliable vehicles. It's about doing things in a new way, in a better way. We must use this historic federal funding to right injustices and prioritize investments in our frontline communities that have been historically shortchanged on infrastructure improvements. And this is only part of the good news from our infrastructure law. Massachusetts will receive $1.1 billion for bridge replacement and repair projects across the state, the largest bridge formula program in American history. We have an opportunity to compete for $12.5 billion in grants to rehabilitate and replace bridges such as the Cape Cod Canal bridges. And we will receive $4.2 billion for improving highways. It's a lot of numbers, but that's because it's a lot of money. You will see these federal dollars at work here in Quincy with projects to develop this bus facility, to reconstruct C Street, and to resurface Route 53, among other local projects. So I'm excited about what all of this means for the city and for the entire Commonwealth. But let me be clear, infrastructure funding cannot just be about filling potholes and paving streets. Sure, we need to fix what's broken, but we also need to be bold and visionary. Transit is about climate. Transit is about jobs. Transit is about housing. Transit is about building a vibrant economy that works not just for a thin slice, but works for everyone in this Commonwealth. We have our toes on the line for transformational change right now. And it's just the beginning of what we can do together at the federal, state, and local governments for working families to boost our economy and to promote environmental justice. Our entire delegation will keep pushing for more federal resources for Massachusetts, and I am so honored to have such a strong partner in Congressman Lynch and the rest of our federal delegation. He has been fighting for electric buses forever, and I've been fighting for as long as I've been in the Senate, which is not quite forever. But this is our chance for transformational change. So thank you all for being here today to celebrate with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. And now I'd like to invite Congressman Lynch to say a few words. Thank you, Congressman.
Steve. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Senator, thank you for your kind acknowledgement. I really do appreciate it. And thank you for your leadership in the United States Senate, where because of the rules, it was a tough slog. But at the end of the day, this is what bipartisanship looks like. I am thankful for Senator Warren and Senator Markey to be able to push over onto our side of the vote tally a number of Republican colleagues. We had about 13 House members, Republicans, who came over and made this a possibility. But this has been a very long process. And I want to acknowledge a few people who are not with us today. And that is, this became a reality through a long series of conversations and working with our local partners, from Ron Mariano, our speaker, and Tom Koch, the mayor of Quincy. I remember quite fondly the meetings we had with Governor Baker, and then Secretary of Transportation, oh my God, Stephanie Pollock, who came down to D.C. The whole idea was to make sure that at the city level, at the state level, and at the federal level, we all had similar priorities. So we had to meet with our local partners and state partners, and then match those up with the wishes of our Massachusetts delegation, both House and Senate. And I'm as the senior member of the Transportation Committee from our state and in New England, I expected that to be a much tougher challenge than it turned out to be, because everyone had the best interests of our Commonwealth. Everyone knew the importance of climate change resiliency and getting us to a greener and a cleaner transportation system. Unfortunately for us, we have the oldest transportation infrastructure in the country. But that does give us a wealth of knowledge and a highly skilled workforce. And I know Bobby Butler is back there, our representative from Labor. And this transformation, going from combustion engines to electric buses, will require us to retrain and upgrade our facility from a maintenance standpoint as well. So we're blessed to have the apprenticeship programs and the cooperation between labor and management that exists here in the Commonwealth. I also want to thank my colleagues on the House side, especially Congressman Richie Neal, the dean of our delegation. He was so important in terms of getting the voices together, working with the people on the other side of the aisle. When we started out, Mike Capuano was our longtime leader on transportation. And I was happy to see John Lenachek, one of his stalwart transportation people, who has now found his way over to DOT. But he has been a wealth of knowledge. But Mike Capuano began the very earliest efforts of this, and I want to make sure he gets full credit for all the work that he did. But as we sit today, because of the work of Richie Neal and Senator Warren and Senator Markey, we now have 3 House members, myself, Representative Auchincloss, and Representative Seth Moulton, who are now on transportation. So for the size of our state, there are only 2 other states that have more transportation representation in Congress, and that's New York and California. The third most impactful state on issues of transportation is right here in Massachusetts, and we're really proud to have that honor. So I want to thank my colleagues for all their work. This really is a partnership, and as others have mentioned, it depends on the program itself and the way the money works, but either 80% or 90% of the funding will come from the federal government. But it will require our state and city partners to come up with 10 or 20% of the cost of those projects, which is considerable when you're talking about the billions of dollars that are coming in. Hundreds of millions will have to come from our state partners, and we could not have a better group than having at the local level Mayor Tom Koch, who's been a real shining star here in Quincy, and also Ron Mariano, the Speaker of the House, who's been a real blessing to our state, and a great partner in terms of getting these projects to fruition. So I'm honored to be here. I'm eager to get going. I'm delighted that this facility will be in Quincy, in my district, and I'm looking forward to helping out all the projects that will come to fruition across the state. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Congressman, and we too look forward to working with everyone in our federal delegation as we work through the discretionary grant process. So thank you for that. Next, I'd like to invite Speaker Ron Mariano to say a few words. Speaker.
Thank you, Governor Baker, Lieutenant Governor Polito, and the federal delegation, and my mayor. I am thrilled to be here in my district also to see what's going to become the maintenance facility in Quincy. Having fought to keep the old maintenance facility open, this is like a breath of fresh air, and to have the federal participation on this is truly remarkable. I often wondered what we were going to do when we got the news that the Quincy bus yard may close. But to the rescue came the federal government. And as someone who has to put votes together, I have a strong appreciation for what the federal delegation has gone through to be here today to make these announcements. As someone who followed it with the interests of the sports page of the Globe daily as to what was going on in Washington, I rode the roller coaster that I'm sure they rode many days as they fought to get this through. But we're here today because of their hard work. The whole delegation hung together. That is extremely important. And it's the veteran leadership that we have that allows us to be here today. So I can't thank the federal delegation enough. And we can be involved in the match programs that are part of this new infrastructure bill because we have some federal money that we can use to participate. Not all that much, Governor, but we have some. But with that, you know, I want to thank the one guy who's been through all of this, and it's Mayor Koch, who has been a real staunch advocate for the T. We know how important the T is. We agreed to have 4 stations in the city of Quincy. And it was a commitment to public transportation that put those 4 stations in this city. And now moving to electric buses that can't fit in the old maintenance facility, we stand in what will be the game-changing move to electric buses. So with that, I'm excited, and I look forward to the day when the first electric bus comes in. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Next up, I'd like to invite Mayor Koch to speak. I just want to run through, when he's not busy being mayor, he is also the vice chair of the MBTA Board of Directors, as well as the chair of the MBTA Advisory Board. So we really thank him not only for his leadership here in Quincy, but for his leadership at the MBTA. Mayor?
Thank you, Governor, for choosing such a low podium for today. I really appreciate it. I want to thank the General Manager. You may be breaking a record with your tenure, Steve, and I hope you're around for a long time because you've proven to be a great leader for the MBTA. Secretary Tesler, Governor Baker, and Lieutenant Governor Polito, Senator Warren, and I know Senator Markey would be with us if he could, but, Congressman Lynch, Speaker Mariano, Representative Chan, and all of you here today. It's certainly a great, great time to be the mayor of Quincy. When you hear about the talk of partnerships, it's not just talk. I'm in my 15th year, and the experience has just been remarkable, particularly the last 5 or 8 years, I would say. I'm on the phone or texting Congressman Lynch on a regular basis, runs both ways. I drive my speaker crazy about particular projects in Quincy. Certainly we have our Zoom meetings with Senator Warren and her team. And certainly the governor, lieutenant governor, we're in a regular conversation as well in many, many ways. And I want to just take a minute to talk a little bit about that. When I took office, the MBTA was in deplorable condition on the Red Line. The South Shore, Quincy South Shore, hadn't seen improvements in 40 years. In the blizzard of '78, when I was a kid, the roads were closed and the T was open. In the blizzard of '15, the roads were open and the T was closed. And that was because of the breakdown and the lack of investment and capital investment over those years. And I've seen over the years where governors kind of shy away from the T. It's a separate authority. This governor took the bull by the reins, or took the bull by the horns, and really tackled the issue. And that wasn't an easy thing to do. And that wasn't the only time he's done that. He's been a tremendous leader. Massachusetts truly is a model on how to operate in a bipartisan way. If it's a good idea, it's a good idea. It doesn't have to be a Democrat or Republican idea. So, Governor, I thank you. I know we got some months to go, and I hope we have some more projects to talk about in Quincy, but I thank you for all you've done for Massachusetts, particularly for Quincy. I know we have breakfast every so often, Speaker Mariano, so as you and Representative Chan, Senator Keenan, and Representative Ayers talk about how to distribute some of that federal money, I know you won't forget your hometown. But certainly when you think about what this does, at the end of the day, I think about driving Hancock Street in the summer day when it's 90 degrees, and there's a bus in front of you spewing diesel fumes, and your ventilation system sucking it into the car, and how disgusting it is. This is going to completely change that experience on Hancock Street and so many streets in Quincy, the South Shore, and across the Commonwealth. So on behalf of the people of Quincy, I want to thank the federal delegation, our state delegation, and our governor for the fine work they do. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to do a short period of questions, and I'd ask the governor to step up.
Do you have questions for these guys?
Other cities have been able to build similar electric bus facilities for a much smaller price tag, and I wonder if you could talk about why this project is so expensive and why it's different from facilities in Minneapolis, Montreal, similar projects.
We have a very extensive design process, obviously, that prioritizes safety. To the extent that you have examples of buildings that are consistent with our building codes and our building standards that have been built more cheaply, I think the MBTA is always open to opportunities to save costs, but surely not at the expense of safety or durability. So again, happy to explore some of these other ideas if you have them. That's something we've looked at. I think the investment in infrastructure we determined was not, the cost of the investment did not provide the benefit that we thought. What we actually did is we went in and not only did we analyze all the routes that currently serve Quincy, we modified several of those routes so that we can do all the charging we need to do at this facility. And also stagger that charging so we don't have sort of a giant peak demand, at 3 in the morning. That we've been able to set it up so that all of our charging needs are taken care of here at this facility. As this plan moves forward and we do other facilities across the service area, that's something we're going to be looking at. We are also hopeful, and I think expectant, that there will be advances in battery electric bus technology so that the next generation of buses is going to give us more flexibility in terms of charging.
Slightly different question. The MBTA meeting there on Thursday, we talked about getting rid of Poftak payment. There's some pullback. Can you explain why that's happening?
Sure. As we transition our fare collection technology, the pass-back itself has proven problematic in terms of some of the things that we want this new technology to have. For instance, individualized accounts, right? If the pass is being passed back. So we are currently in the midst of a public comment period. So we do look forward to a dialogue with the public, but that is one of the things that we are proposing to change.
on this? Is this a lifeline to kind of lay the groundwork for future proceed?
Obviously, the capital investment that we're going to be able to do with this additional funding, not only the $2.2 billion in formula funds, but the discretionary funds that we look forward to inviting everyone back when we announce received it, is critical for the MBTA in terms of renewing and revitalizing a system that needs modernization and is getting that modernization because we've been able to increase our level of capital spend. We're spending 5 times more than we did a decade ago investing in the T. So this additional federal money is absolutely, is absolutely a fantastic addition to our capital plan.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.